Hello collectors, it's Steven here and welcome to another Ultra review. This time it's the SH Figuarts Gomora. Sure, we've had Zeton, Metron, Baltan, and even Dada coming up, but we finally have a Tooth and Claw Kaiju in the SH Figuarts line from the Ultraman franchise, and a popular one at that. Since the Ultra Act 1 is stupidly priced in the aftermarket now, being very old as well, this is the figure collectors have been waiting for. Or is it? Well, let's take a look to see whether or not it's worth adding into your collection. In the Sculpt and Paint department, Gomora is generally looking great when on the shelf, and there are no glaring issues. The sculpt is marvelous, no doubt, but he doesn't escape unscathed from Bandai's recent romp with poor quality control, as there are a few questionable moments with this guy, along with a potential issue some might not even think about because it's something that companies should obviously put a little bit more effort into. Now, one big concern, and this is where questionable marketing comes into place, would be the eyes. Because in Bandai's SH Figuarts blog posts of the production figures and the prototype, they look fine. But on mine and everyone else's, it seems that they kinda look a bit wonky. It's almost like Bandai might be pulling a fast one, because they did that with the Monster Arts 2014. Anyway, the point is he's supposed to be doing a Godzilla 2000 Millennium type thing where he's looking up while the head is tilted down. Not that great. The crest, though, features neatly applied red lines, which is rare for Bandai these days. Very well done. Almost looks like Fire Rodan's blue veins on the wings. One issue some might hate is the connection point on the back of the head. Ooh, yeah, that's not on the Ultra Act. So if that's something that really bugs you, seems on a figure, yeah, have fun with that one. Now, let's talk about the body, where in general, there are two issues. First, on the spikes and claws. The shading is basically non-existent. They didn't do a good job here, and it's apparent, and at about $85 for this guy at MSRP, yeah, kinda not cool. The other is paint damage, and this is the one that I'll show you, from Articulation. You will get scrapes over time. Other than that, Sculpt and Paint, both great. The folds and creases in the sculpt emulate the suit well, and it looks baggy, capturing the feel of the Showa era exquisitely. Utilizing the blue-gray dry brushing techniques we find on some other figures, the abdomen region is great as well, with the ridges looking absolutely great. Even the legs work well for this design despite having iffy articulation, which you'll see a bit later. Not too big, not too small, just right. Simply put, a fantastic looking sculpt from head to toe, even so on the back, which is sectioned really well. Awesome. And of course, the tail, where we can see the sectioning continues all the way down. However, we do have a quality control issue on mine where we have unpainted portions of the tail. So yeah, not cool. All in all, Gomora looks great, and it does have some issues where you're kind of just like, meh, not a big deal, but at the same time, for the price point, you kind of expect a tighter quality control on this figure. If for Articulation you are expecting Gomora here to be the same song and dance and pony show that the Ultra Act had to offer, you are sadly mistaken, because that was quite some time ago. It's 2017, and did Bandai step up their game to give us an awesome Gomora action figure. But it has some drawbacks, of course, because it's 2017 Tamashii Nations. What do we got going on? Jaw, mouth, ball joint. Ooh. Pretty neat. Opens and closes. It gets the job done. Not much more to ask for there. Now, the head attaches into the neck on a ball joint, so this way you can get Gomora to look in all sorts of different directions, which is nice. He can point his head down. Then that plugs in furthermore on a ball joint, and then we get another ball joint connection. So you can get Gomora to look about that far down, look that far up. He can look straight up into the sky at Ultraman, who's about to blow him up, can look, oh man, that far to the side, can look that far to the side. I mean, seriously, it's like a snake here. But if you think that's really cool, just wait until we get a little further on. So yeah, we got a whole ball joint system going on here, and it's really great to have. Moving down to the arms, the shoulders are on ball joints, so we can move them in and out, forward and back, and we can rock them around. If you saw my unboxing video, this arm here, the right arm, still has some issues, but fortunately, if I'm nice and tender with them, and I'm oh so loving, then it won't pop out too much. But if I really push it and force it, like, oh, so, and whatnot, then it will pop off. See, I really had to push it on that one. So is it an issue? Yes, but I kind of sort of fixed it. We got some more joints in the arms. Kind of seems like they're on ball joints, but I don't want to necessarily call it. Might just be on hinges and ball joint combination, but you see the range of movement that we got here, which is pretty cool. You can spin them around, which is nice. Then the wrists, they are on ball joints, as you'll see in the next section, which is pretty cool, so you can spin them around. Very, very nice. Now comes the ab crunch and the waist joint. They're on ball joints, so we can bend Gomora over to sort of get him in the intimidating attack pose, like they showed him in the promotional pictures, and we can get him to rear back. But unfortunately, for side to side, there's not really much to write home about. It's just slight tilting, which is kind of upsetting, you know what I mean? It's okay, because we can really get him to lean forward and lean back. The only thing that I would note here in terms of leaning back is watch out for paint rubs. You don't really want that, folks. Not a good thing there. But anyway, continuing on down, we have an SH Monster Arts Godzilla 2014 situation at the thighs. And what am I talking about there? Well, we have to pop the tail off, which is, of course, not going to cooperate with me, to see what exactly I'm talking about. So it's time to zoom in here, and we'll bring Gomora up a little closer. So we have this Y section right here in the back of Gomora to support the tail. And we have these two floating pieces here to help cover up the joint mess that we have going on. Now, as you go to move Gomora's legs around, these two floating sections, the sleeves, the cover pieces, if you will, they like to collide in with the sculpt that is there. So if you were to twist this portion around, which was the issue of mine, then you can't really move Gomora's legs in like you can see there. But just a slight turn of that, suddenly you have a greater range of movement. And of course, it would be better if I had it in frame to see what I'm talking about. So yeah, you can definitely see how that can be an issue. It's not something that's super major that's going to completely ruin the figure, but if you don't really know what you're doing, that is something that can be considered a major drawback. Now, I know what some of you are going to say. You completely blasted the 2014 for that. Yeah, but here it's not a case where the legs become completely unusable. But anyway, yeah, so we have ball jointed hips. You can spread Gomora's legs out about that far, move them forward about that far, and back about that far. Pretty cool. Knees, and down here, interestingly enough, plenty of joints down here, hinges and ball joint systems so you can move Gomora's legs around wonderfully enough. And then we have ball joints in the ankles, so this way we can get ankle rocker movement and we can spin them around, which is done wonderfully. We can get them into a running pose if we wanted. Look at that. Look at that balance. That's so awesome. Then comes the tail. Anyone who tells you that ball joints should pop out or that for the Monster Arts line people are doing just fine enough and that we should expect tails to be bad, no. This is the perfect example of how a tail should be made. It's promoted as having 13 points of articulation, and just look at this. Glorious use of ball joints here. Look at all of that. Oh, this is just awesome. Seriously, for the past couple days, I think this is like the 4th day after I've opened up Gomora.
Yeah, I'm just loving. And I just keep fiddling around with the tail because it's just that awesome. You can get it into all different shapes. It's just so cool. I love the tail articulation. Now, something to take note of, this base part here, it's been popping off for a lot of people and it can be difficult to get back on. Understandable to an extent because the joints, they're just wonderful here. Now, something you're probably noticing as you're moving the tail around, it kind of creates gaps. For some people, that is just a complete deal breaker. I don't know why, but it's still very nice. It's something you just got to not care about. So yeah, overall for articulation, the design of Gomora doesn't really necessarily result in a wonderfully articulated figure, but with what they had to work with, Bandai did an amazing job with just a few drawbacks in terms of quality control, namely with some parts being able to pop off easily and that weird configuration in the thighs. But those aside, 2 big thumbs up from me.
Now, accessories. No beam here, but we do get an extra set of hands, which are really similar to the default ones, a bloody stump of a tail, and a really stubborn broken horn piece. Good mighty, this is so hard to swap out. So let's get to it. To swap hands, grip near the wrists on the hands already attached, pop them off, and pop the new ones on. But do be careful because this may create a loose connection point over time, and this is a known issue with this figure. The left hand on mine is more stubborn than the right for me for some reason, though. Don't know why, it just doesn't like to connect and stay connected too well. So the extra hands are more fist-like in design, so maybe he can punch more with these, but yeah, they could have been omitted in favor of another accessory. What? Not too sure of, but hey, I'm not the creative guy here supposed to be designing the figure. That's on their end. Next, we have the broken horn part, and good luck using it. You pop the horn off after some time struggling with it, especially if yours was stuck with paint like mine, effectively glued in place. Then note the direction the horn's plug was in, with a large portion being up top, then narrowing downward. Once you figure that out, you push the plug for the broken horn part in, and once you have it in, good luck getting it out if you want to be gentle. You'll have to use your nails because it sits in pretty flush, and I have to use my nails so this way I'm able to grip in that little slot and pull the horn out, causing paint scratches. Pretty solid, gory paint application with a nice sculpt. So the attention to detail is really appreciated, but at the same time, they really have to start thinking about execution here. Last up, we have the bloody stump, and though it's easy to get on by popping off the attached tail, and then obviously attaching the stump by just pushing it onto the ball joint, good luck popping off the stump for switching the tail back on. It's a real tight fit for me, and I always feel like I'm going to either break the ball joint for the tail, or I'm going to end up flinging Gomora across the room. Not a good feeling at all. Thankfully, though, the trade-off for this is the detail on the stump is executed really well with very, very interesting details that are small. The paint looks like it's very wet, so it looks like it's fresh blood, and you can even see a small indent where the bone would be going through the tail. And I mean, of course, they can't sell guns on the toy market. You can't include that with toys, but this, oh yeah, that's okay. I gotta say, though, in terms of sculpt, this is one of the most impressive things I have seen so far this year, so cool. Very good. So, in sum, Gomora's accessories basically turn it into a battle damage version, which is cool, but for the hefty price tag of $85, once again, it feels a bit light. Sure, some great display opportunities, but a generic effect part would have been appreciated. We do have the impact effects, we do have the explosion effects, and though I'm not saying explicitly use those, we did get the rock parts with the Ultra Act Red King, and maybe we could have gotten something here. Regardless, that's my subjective opinion, but objectively we do have some iconic, I suppose, accessories. Now the size comparison, where interestingly enough, and you'll see this a bit clearer in the last section of this review, this Gomora generally scales well with all 6-inch kaiju lines, including both the SH Figuarts Ultraman stuff and the Ultra Act lines. So what's out of scale here? It's kind of one of those things with the Ball 10 issue where you have to ask, is the Ball 10 figure out of scale, or are the other figures out of scale? Anyway, this should give you a good idea of his size. Last but most certainly not least, we have a comparison with the Ultra Act Gomora to end the review. I know what you're probably thinking. Why not a figure fight? Or it's not a repaint, so why are you comparing it in this review? Well, you see, this figure is based on the Showa design, and while the Ultra Act is based on the Heisei or more modern design we're used to seeing, they both have a right to be in your collection, so a figure fight isn't warranted, but many people would like to see the differences before having two Gomoras in their collection, or selling one for the other, whatever combination that may be, so here you go. In some ways, the Ultra Act is better, and in some ways, the SH Figuarts is better. At the end of the day, the choice is yours, but as you can see here, in terms of sizing, the Ultra Act is slightly bulkier, but in general, they're the same size. So if you think one might be better, that's entirely subjective. You pick the one that you like, and you will be happy with it. So buy now, skip, or wait for that deal. Gomora has great sculpt with some very questionable paint applications with scraping and minor shading concerns. Articulation that works well but is restricted by design a bit, and the accessories will be hit or miss for some. In the end, the figure is nice, and I am indeed very happy to have it. We get more good than bad here, and that's always a good thing. Wait a minute. This thing has an MSRP of $85 or nearly 9,000 yen? Oh, no. These issues, enough of that price point. Yeah, it drops the figure from about an A minus down to a B, and some, depending on your choice of flavor, a C+. Now, don't get me wrong. The figure is good, very good. But had I not gotten it for a discount because of how I got the discount through importing and bundled shipping, yeah, I'd be a little bit more peeved with the issues that I had personally. If you do get Gomora, expect a figure with some reasonable issues for a standardly priced figure, let's say somewhere between the $50 and $60 range, but rather upsetting for a figure that's nearly $90 here, folks. Keep that in mind. That's what Bandai's expecting you to pay for this, and we do have some things that make you ask questions that involve a 4-letter word. If you can wait for this to go on sale, depending on demand, you might be better off. But at the same time, look at the prices of the Ultra Act, watch this review, and ask yourself if you're willing to pay more or not. Well, that's it for this video, but that doesn't mean you need to close out just yet. There are a few other videos that just popped up on your screen, so go ahead and click on those to watch some more of my videos, and then there's the description to check out, where I've linked to where you can get this figure or others like it, and the credits to see how this video was made, so be sure to check that out. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe. I love hearing from you. Thanks for watching, collectors, and I'll catch ya in the next video.